Dear viewers, welcome you all to NTV Europe's General Election 2017 TV debate. Today we are trying to find out which political party has the best to offer for Britain. On my very right hand side I have Chris Wilford, Conservative MP candidate. Then I have Alan Bagshaw, Liberal Democrats MP candidate. Then I have Alistair Paulson, Green Party MP candidate. Then I have Marina Ahmed, Labour Party MP candidate. Thank you all of you for joining us today. So last segment we were talking about education and economy. Economy and taxes. This segment we will start from housing, environment and transport. And because of the time I have to be very quick. So if you respond very quick as well, short and brief, that would be quite appreciated. So if I start with you, Marina Ahmed, Labour Party MP candidate, how your party is different from other political parties in tackling growing housing crisis?
Okay, well, the biggest social issue in this country is the housing crisis that has got bigger and bigger. What Labour will do when we get into power is build over 1 million houses in the term of the 5 years that we are in government, and half of those, 500,000, will be social housing, or council housing. And what we will, the second pledge that we will make is that we will not allow councils to sell properties unless they have a way of replacing them.
Okay, thank you for that. Chris, if I come to you, Chris, you are Chris Wilford, Conservative MP candidate. If I come to you, how your party is different from other major political parties in terms of tackling growing housing crisis in the UK?
Well, first of all, we want a social housing revolution to happen now. We want to make it easier for councils to borrow more money to help fund new housing. And we also want to reform planning laws to make it easier to build on brownfield sites. And principally, we are the party of right to buy, and we want a new generation of right to buy to give people the opportunity to own the home they live in.
Thank you very much. Alan Bagshaw, MP candidate from Liberal Democrats. If I ask you, how is your party is different from other major political parties in terms of tackling growing housing crisis in the UK?
We'll set up a housing investment bank, so the government will be driving more house building rather than sitting on its hands as it has been recently, and that will make sure that there's over 300,000 homes a year that we need to build in this country will actually get built. The other policy that we are going to bring in is rent to buy. So at the moment, loads of young people, young professionals that are on a good wage struggle to be able to buy their own home because they can't get together a deposit, and this will help them get on the ladder.
Thank you very much. Alistair Paulson, MP candidate from Green Party. How your party is different from other major political parties in terms of tackling growing housing crisis in the UK?
We have got a proper plan to fund social housing, and we will do that by ending the tax break worth £6 billion on buy-to-let mortgages. We will give that to councils. They will use that as a deposit on buying council houses, and we will allow councils to borrow the balance and pay it off from the income from the rent from the social housing that they build. That's the key to answering what is an absolute crisis in our country.
Thank you very much. Marina Ahmed, Labour Party MP candidate, if I come back to you, you mentioned about building new houses. Do you think this is good enough for tackling the crisis? Do you think it's good enough?
Well, no, because the other element, of course, is the rented sector and the private rented sector. And at the moment, I was watching on the London News a couple of nights ago the shocking spectacle of a property that was a three-bedroom house that had 21 people living in it, including somebody living in the garden shed. So one of the biggest elements of our housing policy is to ensure that landlords are licensed, and not only just licensed, but actually ensure that those licenses are enforced, and there will be massive fines for landlords who don't carry on what they're supposed to do.
So the measures that your party is going to do in terms of housing crisis, you think this is good enough for growing population?
Well, at the moment, we are committing to building 1 million new homes.
Thank you.
That is for council properties and for and looking at the issue around rented accommodation as well.
Thank you very much, Chris. You mentioned about building new houses. Do you think this is good enough for the growing population that we have in UK?
I mean, the key issue is affordability. So we need more homes. We also need to give people the tools they need so that they can own their own home. That's a great dream for a lot of people. Therefore, our new right to buy generation, that will sort of contribute to helping people get, once they're in those properties, get up. But we need the more homes. We've been building homes at a record pace, but there's far more that needs to be done to cope with the scales of the population growth we've got.
How about, she mentioned about landlords. I mean, there are a few landlords, they are, they sometimes they increase the rent all on a sudden, they do not treat their tenant properly. How about,
I think it's a diversion. The real issue is you need more homes. I think political capital needs to be focused on getting in there and helping people build more. So working with councils, working with others to increase the supply.
Thank you.
I think if we get in the game of rental caps, it's not tackling the real issue.
Thank you very much, Alan. You mentioned about making new houses as well. Do you think this is good enough? I mean, your party promise is good enough for tackling the housing crisis, as we knew that UK has a growing population.
I think it's a start. I mean, it's an ongoing crisis. For me, I think the elephant in the room is the impact that Brexit's going to have on the construction industry. So costs are already increasing. There are plenty of construction projects that are being put on hold or cancelled. There are developers that bought land at a certain value that now don't want to develop it because there has been such a drop in the pound. And the construction industry depends on things like freedom of movement to bring in the skills and the workers that it needs. If we have the hard Brexit that the Tories are pushing, we won't be able to build those homes.
Thank you very much. Alistair, do you think it's good enough? I mean, you mentioned about affordable and social housing.
Yeah.
Do you think your party promise is good enough for tackling this crisis?
I've dealt with social housing, but I also want to deal with the private rented market, because not only should we have rent caps, we should have rent control, because rentals are getting completely out of hand, and for most people these days renting is the only option. House prices are now so high that young people in particular have no hope of ever buying a house, and so getting a fair rental market which is fair to landlords and fair to tenants is absolutely essential, and the market at the moment is failing.
Thank you very much. I need to move to another issue, that is NHS. If I start with you, Maina Ahmed, Labour Party MP candidate, how your party manifesto 2017 is different from 2015 in terms of NHS pledges, NHS part? How it is different?
Well, the NHS is the biggest employer in the world, and at the moment, those employees have their salaries capped at 1% and have done for a long time. Now, we talked earlier about the economy. If the biggest employer in the world has a cap of 1% on the wages of those people, that has a massive impact actually on the economy. Now, I am really tired of hearing stories about nurses actually having to go to food banks because they can't afford the food that they need to put on the table.
I want to know how this is different. I mean, 2015 manifesto, how it is different in terms of NHS from 2017?
Well, any manifesto the Labour Party has will always prioritise the NHS, because we built the NHS. We know time and time again the Tories destroy the NHS and Labour comes in and fixes the NHS.
Thank you very much. I mean, your party is going to invest how much money? 6 billion. That's what your party manifesto is saying.
No. We are going to invest £30 billion in the NHS.
I mean, how the funding will come?
Well, the funding will from that will actually, we were looking at the corporation tax, because we still have a lot of money to make up from that corporation tax. Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chris. If I come to you, how your party manifesto is different this time from 2015 when it comes to NHS?
I think,
and if your party planning to invest more money, how the funding is coming?
Yeah, I think the key differences are mental health. So we want 11,000 extra NHS staff dealing with mental health problems, which is a growing problem in our society. And then the second aspect is social care. The key challenge, I personally think one of the biggest challenges we're facing, as well as changes in technology, is our ageing population. We put 2 billion extra as an emergency shortfall. We've now announced we're going to do a consultation to look at how we put long-term funding in that aspect to release stress on other aspects of the
So
system.
Conservative is focusing on mental health issue and also at the same time putting more money for the aging
population.
And how the money is
pledged
coming.
to 8 billion real terms increase
Okay.
by 2022.
And the funding, how
that's
about the
tough
funding?
decisions in other areas like the welfare cap. We're committed to areas like that because if we're going to invest in our schools, invest in our health system, allow councils to build these things,
Saving
there's
money.
other areas that we need to.
Thank you very much. Alan Bagshire, Liberal Democrats MP candidate, if I ask you how your party manifesto 2017 is different from 2015 when it comes to NHS?
So we have our key pledge now about putting an extra penny on the pound for income tax so that we can raise the extra 6
And
billion.
how much money are you raising through this?
So that's £6 billion a year in the next Parliament for the NHS. £1 billion of that
Does
will
it
be...
solve the funding crisis?
So it's one of the things that will start helping the funding crisis. We think it will do a lot of good work. We want to create an NHS which is a health and social care service. So rather than at the moment what we have where there are people that are left in hospital beds for months on end because they can't go home and get care with their family or in the home that they've always lived in, we want to make sure that there are those care and support services in the community, and we will invest in that.
Thank you very much. Alistair Paulson, Green Party MP candidate. How is your party manifesto different from 2015 to 2017 when it comes to NHS?
Well,
are you guys planning to spend more money on it?
Well, our manifesto is different because the NHS is in a much bigger crisis now than it was in 2015. Have we forgotten that junior doctors were on strike until recently? And that was over their wages to a degree, but it was about the underfunding of the service that they worked in. It was a cry for help that the service was suffering so badly that for the first time ever junior doctors stopped working.
Is Green Party planning to increase their salary?
So we would certainly increase the salary. We would increase the number of doctors that are being trained in the UK, and we want to get rid of the internal market, which is incredibly wasteful. We're now spending 3 times the percentage of money going into the NHS on administration than we used to. There are huge savings that can be made in this aspect. There's the Public Finance Initiative, which is draining money out of our National Health Service at a huge rate. We would get rid of all of that. We would take it all back into central government. We'd renegotiate those, and we would get rid of them completely.
Thank you very much. Now, if I move to next one, which is a very important one, is Brexit. So if I start with you, Marina Ahmed, Labour Party MP candidate, what approach your party will take in negotiation?
Well,
and what would be the key priorities?
so my biggest concern is at the moment what we have is a Prime Minister who wants to go into Brexit with the attitude of I'm a bloody difficult woman. Well, as far as I'm concerned, that is saying to the EU, come and have a go if you're hard enough. So our policy is completely the opposite to that. We would like to leave Brexit, we would like to go through Brexit, leaving with the EU working in a relationship of partnership where we make sure that we come out with a deal that builds a strong economy and has workers' rights at the forefront.
Thank you very much. Chris, what would be Chris Wilford, Conservative MP candidate, what approach your party will take in this negotiation? She has already said.
Well, like Bangladesh, we like strong female leaders in this country, and I think going into these negotiations we want a comprehensive trading agreement, and that means that's not compatible with the single market, that's not other issues. If we're going to go to countries like Bangladesh and negotiate a new relationship with them, we need a comprehensive free trade agreement with Europe, settling that issue so we can move on. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. We're negotiating with 27 other nations who do you want going into that negotiating table with a strong hand to get the best deal.
Thank you very much. Alan Bagshaw, Liberal Democrats MP candidate, you spoke, you gave huge importance on Brexit, and your party has a different stand on Brexit than other political parties. What approach your party will take when it comes to negotiation?
So I guess it's an interesting question in terms of if the Liberal Democrats win a majority on the 8th of June, then we would take that as a mandate that actually people want to remain in the European Union. We have always been very clear that we still think the best place for the UK is at the centre of the European Union and leading rather than just leaving.
The Article 50 has been triggered, so United Kingdom is coming out of European Union. So what approach your party will take? What sort of approach it will take?
Our approach is to try and keep key things like our membership of the single market, which is incredibly important, ensuring that there is freedom of movement. We want to guarantee the rights of the EU citizens that are currently living and working here. They are currently being used as a pawn in the negotiation, and say that actually we do think that they should have the right to stay. Many of them have made huge contributions in the time that they've been here, and they should be given that settlement.
Thank you very much. Alistair, we'll listen about this particular aspect from you after the break.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we are having a debate on general election 2017. You would be able to listen more from these MP candidates. Please stay with us.